Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Sarah from Handmade After Dark. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and welcome to my Fun Fold Friday class. So for those who are new to either to my Facebook page or YouTube channel, one Friday a month I do a Fun Fold class, and if you are on my email list, the following week you will receive the project recipe card. So it's got all the measurements, the products used, so you don't have to worry about writing down measurements or products or anything like that. You'll have all the basics you need. You've got the video for the instruction, and there's also a few hints and tips in the project recipe as well. So if you're not on my email list, head over to handmadeafterdark.com.au and make sure you sign up to my email list. Alrighty, so for this month, the card it's got a few different names. Some call it a floating diamond or a overlapping floating diamond, but this is what it looks like. So looks like that, and so it opens out, and then on the back you can write your message as well. So it sits upright, basically looks like that when it's upright, and it fits in a standard envelope, so it's made from a standard card base, and it's a lot easier than it looks. There's just quite a few pieces, so I do recommend cutting all your pieces first, and then putting it together. Just be mindful with your designer series paper, if it's a directional pattern, just be mindful that these two front ones, they're going, these front ones are all going on an angle. So if you've got one that's directional, it may not work. So just think about that before you start cutting. Alrighty, so we are going to start with and I've already cut this one. Not cut, scored. Didn't mean to do that. So a petal pink card base, and I don't know if you can see the score lines. From each end, you want to score at 5 centimeters and 7.7 centimeters, and then flip it round, repeat on the same size. I think I used that one to do my sample instead of this one. I was going to score it for you, but it's already done. So once you've got your score lines, we're going to fold the two innermost ones, are going to be mountain folds, and then these outside ones are going to be valley folds, so it'll sit like that. So when it's closed, there's just a very slight gap at the back, at least for the Australian and UK card size, but that's fine. It still closes up as it should, fits in an envelope, it's all good. Alrighty, so then you need a bunch of different pieces of cardstock and designer series papers. So we have 4 long strips. I'm using Fresh Freezer. I might just zoom out a little bit so you can see a bit better. Not a lot of room. So we have 4 strips. These are going front and back on the outside, and so then those 2 for the back, and then 2 that are the same length but slightly wider, and they are for the center panels. There is 1 basic white that is for the wider Fresh Freezer, and that goes on the inside. And then we have 2 larger and 2 slightly smaller pieces of petal pink, and then 1 Fresh Freezer in the smaller size. Then we have 2 pieces of the designer series paper. I'm using the Lovely and Beautiful paper, so it's from the new mini catalogue. These ones are for the larger pieces, and then I have a couple of smaller ones. A piece of basic white and the fresh freesia for the basic white, and then 2 strips of designer series paper. These are going on the back. And then I also, where did they go? I am using, and these are going to disappear, I've got 2, I'll leave them in here for the moment, 2 pieces of vellum. This is also from the mini, and try not to throw everything around here, the Beautifully Adorned Ephemera pack. So this is a pack of vellum pieces, so they're die cut vellum pieces, sort of vellum and gold. So you've got flowers, leaves, tags, sentiment banners, little embellishments, some frames. So I've just taken a couple of the little corner pieces for that. So I'll put that out of the way. And for the sentiment on this one, I'm using the Simply Beautiful stamp set. So I'm using To the Happy Couple and then the little flower on the back of the card. All right, let's do the heat embossing first. Now, if you don't have heat embossing tools, or you just don't want to heat emboss, that's fine. Just pick a suitable ink color that coordinates with whatever color scheme you're going with. I'll just move all of this out of the way though I do need my little basic white square. So yeah, there are a lot of pieces for this, but it's easy to put together. It's not difficult. It's just got a few pieces. That's about it. So remembering that we are doing this, this will go on the diagonal. So make sure you stamp your sentiment on the diagonal, and we'll just go over this with the embossing buddy so that we don't have any stray pieces of embossing powder on our card. Alrighty, so I'm using the Metallics Wow embossing powder pack, so I'm using the gold, but you could use any color that works with the paper and cardstock that you're using. Alrighty, so ink that up. Just make sure that's well inked up, and make sure my card is on the appropriate angle. I want it as close to the center as I can get. And we'll get this into the tray. Don't be stingy with your embossing powder, because it's all the excess is going back in the jar. So add more than you think. Tap on the back to reduce or to get rid of any little stray bits, and then brush off any extra bits that you see, and just check that you've got enough embossing pad everywhere. So I can see a few little areas there where there's not quite enough, so I'm just going to scoop this back up, add a bit more, see how I go. Just brush off those top bits, and that is looking better. Just have a few stray pieces to get rid of, and I think that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that, I think. Yep. Alrighty, so before we heat that, I'm going to put the embossing powder back because otherwise it will go everywhere as soon as I turn the heat tool on. So get that back in and put the lid on. Okay, move these out of the way, bring in my clipboard. So I use a wooden clipboard with a metal clip. You definitely do not want a plastic clipboard or a plastic clip with a sheet of foil on it, and that just means that when I'm heating from above, the foil helps to heat it from the bottom. It reduces the warping overall and helps it to set. So let's heat this up. So if you've never heat embossed before, basically we're looking for it to go shiny. And there we go, starting to go shiny. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's just check that it's all melted and it's all nice and shiny. That looks pretty good, I think. And then just be careful when you go to take this off, because this is metal and you've been heating. Just check that it's not too hot before you go and put your finger on it to take your paper out. So that's fine. Let's bring this back in. I'm going to add the vellum so I don't lose the pieces. Now, normally vellum can be tricky to adhere because it shows through, but because this has got gold on the front, if you add your glue in the areas where the other side has the gold, which is most of this, then it's not going to show through. And we just want this right up in the corner. So make sure it's not overhanging. Just line it up and press it down. And then we'll do the same for the other side. So again, just line it up at the bottom, make sure there's no overhang, and we're good. It could have stamped that a little bit further down, but that's all right. And seeing as we're here, I may as well, once I find it, adhere this to the fresh freezer piece, seeing as we need to start putting all this together anyway. So let's get that together. That, and then so let's separate out. We have all of these strips and then all of the squares. Now the larger squares are the ones that we're going to cut. So these smaller ones go in the center, so we can adhere the paper to those. So let's do that. So you can use whatever adhesive you like For these, I like the liquid glue largely because it gives me a bit more wriggle room so I can adjust if I don't quite get it lined up properly. Alrighty, so that's those centerpieces are ready. Let's adhere. I've got my smaller strips, so let's do all of these. So these are for the outside pieces, and these are just standard layers. So for those in the US or Canada, and you've got a different card size, the layers for these are all your standard layers. So the equivalent for you would be the 1/4 inch layers in terms of how much gap on each side. Okay. And we do the back. So once you've got all your pieces cut for this one, it's actually really easy to put together. Just takes a while to get all your pieces cut, but that's really the hardest part, just getting them all cut and just making sure that the paper, the design series paper that you use on the front is going to work. So try and avoid directional patterns. Alrighty, so then we have the larger ones in the center, and I need to make sure I remember to stamp the basic white piece before we stick that one down. But let's get this as put together as we can beforehand. And then we've got, so these patterned DSP pieces are going on the back. Alrighty, so the back is almost done. We just need to stamp and add the basic white piece. We'll do that in a sec. And for the front, we need the final fresh freesia strip. This one is going in the middle. Alrighty, let's put that to the side for the moment. So the two larger DSP and cardstock pieces we need to cut, and we need to cut them diagonally. So all you need to do is line up the 2 points in your trimmer, so in the little groove. And little tip, when you're cutting on an angle like this, if you cut from the top, you may end up sort of squishing the tip and sort of crushing your point. So bring the blade down somewhere in the middle, doesn't matter where, just anywhere along the actual cardstock piece, and trim up and down. That way you won't crush your tips. Now we'll do the same with this one. Line up the pieces so the points are in the groove. Bring the blade into the middle there, up and down, and nice pointy edges. Same for the DSP, into the grooves. Blade in the middle. Let's just straighten that up. There we go. Oh no, I've just moved that. Get that back. Excuse my head in the camera. That looks better, almost. There we go. Keep that still. And cut. Last one. Line those up. There we go. And cut. Get all these off. There we go. And then we can stick these ones together. Alright. So these are all, well, the cardstock is all the same size, and the DSP pieces are the same size, so you don't have to, or you shouldn't have to worry about matching anything up. Just slide that across a little, that's better. Okay, two more. And one more. Okay, now before I forget, we will stamp that basic white piece. Otherwise I will forget, and then I'll stick it down before stamping. So let's do that now while I think of it. So very simple with this one. All I'm doing is just stamping in Fresh Freesia in the corner, so it slightly overlaps the edge, nothing fancy. So I get my Fresh Freesia ink and ink it up. I'm just going to test and make sure I don't have any stray pieces trying to make an appearance. So just in the corner, so it's overlapping, and there we go. Easy peasy. Alright, let's stick this one down. Okay, now for the front, we need dimensionals. Now, the first one, nice and easy. We're going to go 3 dimensionals, 1 in each corner. If you want to add more along or in the center, absolutely can. And then once we get the backings off, we just want to line this up. You want the outside tip basically lined up with the edge. You want the edge lined up just back from the score line. You don't want it right on the score line because you want to make sure that when you open and close the card, so let's hope this is okay, you just want to make sure that it doesn't crush the edges. If you're too close to the score line, so if you're right on that score line, it may crush the edges. Actually, I have a feeling my sample, no, it wasn't that one. I always do a mock-up. It might be my other one. If it is, I'll show you. Now, we'll get to that in a sec. For the second one, we want dimensionals again, but we do not want dimensionals on this one because that side is already raised. So we want a dimensional there, maybe a little bit back from the edge, and this edge, so when we flip it over, it's over there, and then we're just going to add a bit of glue to this edge because that one will be already raised. And then it's the same thing again, line up so that it's right on the edge but not going to be crushed, and then make sure the edge lines up with the edge of the one you've already put down, and just make sure you press that down when you test that it's going to work, because if you haven't pressed it down enough, if it's sort of still a bit loose, when you go to close it to test that it's in the right spot, you may move it. So make sure it is pressed down enough that that's not going to happen. But that side looks pretty good. It closes as we want, even on both sides. And then we do the same thing on the other side. So the first one gets dimensionals on all 3 points. And we line up with the edge and just back from that score line. That looks pretty good. And then the second one, so it's this bottom one that wants a dimensional, other side gets glue. That's a bit much, we'll just spread it out a bit. And same thing again, line up, make sure it's not overhanging the edge there, make sure you've lined up with the other edge. Hold it down a bit as you test and make sure it's going to sit. So that is sitting nicely, that opens and closes, it doesn't crush anything, so that's what we want. Alrighty, then we go to the center. So we're going to sit this so that the top point is at the edge of the fresh freesia, and just be careful when you add your adhesive that you don't go over the edges. So I like to flip mine over, and that helps give me a guide as to where I can add glue and where to avoid. Just be mindful that if you're moving your piece around, which you can inadvertently do, you may get adhesive. If you do end up getting adhesive outside, so off the edges, get your embossing buddy and basically tap that over the adhesive. If it's quite thick, try and wipe off some of it, but if you tap your embossing buddy over the adhesive, it will take the sticky away. So you can still fix it if you happen to put adhesive where you're not meant to, and believe me, I've done that many times. Alright, so we want to stick it down so the point lines up with the edge of the fresh freesia cardstock. You want it in the center. Once you're happy, press it down. I'm happy with that. Then we go with the other one, so this time lining up the tip at the bottom, and again flipping it over so I've got a guide as to where I can add adhesive. Flip it over, line up, try and keep everything centered as much as you can. Get that down. Once you're happy, press it down. Be careful you don't move it as you press down. But if you've used the liquid glue, then you should be able to adjust slightly. So that is all good. Then all we need to do, this one we are using dimensionals. So we're going to go top and bottom. And I'm going to whack one in the middle and then a few down the sides. Just make sure that that's looking okay. So that's going to be fine. I might just add I want it to be, I don't want it sort of, pressing or sort of sinking in too much in areas where there aren't dimensionals, which can happen sometimes, which is why I tend to go a little bit overboard with the dimensionals, but it keeps it even and that keeps me happy. But you can do whatever works for you. Alright, so this one is going in the center, so try and get the side point lined up and sort of in the middle and press it down. It should sit in between, so that's all looking pretty good. And then all that is left once I find them is to add some embellishments, and I have gone with the frosted iridescent dots. So these are on the last chance list, These were from the Lights of Aurora suite. So I'm just going to add a few of these. I'm going with some of the clear ones, and then let me just flatten that down so I can get it on, and then some purple to match the cardstock. Which way is that sitting? Doesn't want to come off. Come on. There we go. Alrighty, and there you have it. Pretty easy fun fold, but looks a lot more complicated than it is. Just takes a bit of cutting, and you're good to go. All right, so I will show you. I have another sample that I made. So this one is using a current stamp set and retired DSP. So this is the stamp set is the Terrific Toadstool. So that's still available. The paper was a Celebration paper, and then I've used Melon Mumbo and Granny Apple Green for the cardstock. So that's that one, and then on the back I've got some more of the Toadstool paper from Celebration and some of the stamps from the stamp set. So that is that one, and then that one. So you can use this design or fun fold for any occasion. It can be weddings, birthdays, thank you cards, whatever you need. Just be careful with your choice of paper. So, because originally I was wanting to use, say for this one, I wanted to use this paper, but then realized it's fine for the back, but using that for the front just would not work because it's directional. So I picked a different one, and it's all good. Alrighty, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the projects. Remember, make sure you sign up to my email list. Head over to handmadeafterdark.com.au because next Wednesday in my weekly newsletter I'll be sending out the recipe card for the project. So for the one that we made, you'll get all the measurements, all the products used, and a few hints and tips as well, and photos of the card. There will also be a link to this video so that you can easily find the video if you need to watch it again. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and I do appreciate it. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. There is also a list of products used in the comments, in the description below as well. Alrighty, thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.